Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Danganronpa. Once again, we go into school mode and we are in such a weird position because we really don't have any reason whatsoever to do too much at all. Like, as it stands, I can pour people into the ability to clean and just have them clean. But that's pretty much it. I could try and get materials to build cleaning maestros so that they could level up faster, and frankly, it probably would be more efficient to have characters get the materials to build cleaning maestros than it would be to actually have them clean and level up by themselves. But otherwise, that's kind of it. That being said, we still need the energy loss. So the first day is still tree branches, bags of screws, and pin lights. And so we've got to figure out how can we get pin lights with like 4 characters going this way, and then 4 characters going this way for tree branches. Is that right? You may not actually need that many characters going that route. And then I suppose question will come down to like how many people do we want to have go for bags of screws. But yeah, day 1, it's all about that. Which, if we are actually only looking for tree branches, that's a low level item. So having, I can't imagine that 6 is really the right number. Meanwhile, we can also throw some characters, I suppose, down the path as far as other places to get other resources. Now that's too few people looking for tree branches now. I'll carefully set it at 3. And go. That should be about as close as we can go. But like, this whole section of gameplay really does not matter much after the first couple of days. And it is all about just hanging out with the last 4 people. And so we have to figure out, or I'd like to figure out a way to accelerate this experience, so that we can get Yashahiro, Chihiro, Celeste, and Junko done very quickly. Which I guess first things, we'll go with Yashahiro and use a trip ticket, go to the dining hall, and since I'm just using a walkthrough, then I just need to scroll to where Yashahiro is, which it's still kind of hard. The thing about HTML is that it would make really nice sense on this forum post if you could automatically have a like nav bar that you could pull up at any point, like a floating element or something like that. But yep, it doesn't have anything like that, so I'm just scrolling up and down. The options for Yashahiro in the dining hall are tell me about power spots versus do you know how to cook versus what should we talk about, or let's make lunch and go eat somewhere versus so what do you like to do at night versus how do you get your hair to do that, which that's a prompt for several characters and never seems to be the right prompt, except for maybe Mondo it was right. Or the prompt could be for breakfast Japanese style is best, and we've seen that prompt as the great response for many, many characters, which that also means that all 3 prompts in the dining hall for Yashihiro are great. So if I was just trying to save a little bit of time, I would just do the dining hall 10 times over. But it doesn't matter. We're going to have a few extra days anyways. You have 50 days effectively to date 4 people because you wouldn't get it perfect every single time. Honestly, I think maybe one run you could have gotten a 5th person, but it really wouldn't have mattered at all because every other run would not have fixed that. There's 16 characters or 15 characters, so maybe you could have done it in 3 runs instead of 4, but you wouldn't have been able to have any fun with it or see any of the content. Oh ho, interested in power spots, huh? Well then, let me tell you about the best one I've found. It's super secret, okay? Nobody knows about it. As soon as we get out of here, I'll show you right where it is. I'll be expecting fair compensation, of course. Looks to me like you had a really good time. And yeah, Yashihiro just comes off as a con artist. Man, that was fun. I always have a blast hanging out with you, man. I feel like the cloud that was hanging over my spiritual horizon is totally lifted. I feel like now my accuracy might go up to 30% or even maybe 40. Okay, we should head back. Come on, let's walk and talk. The fact that his accuracy isn't even at 50% probably goes to show how terrible he is even as a con artist. Like, you can easily make binary statements and on average get about 50% accuracy. Alright. Construction time. We did not get enough tree branches in that first turn. Well, that sucks. Meanwhile, we need secret books of poems. So we needed 5 of those. We've got that. Do we need a power saw for anything? I don't think so. We need 2 Greek statues and 5 welders. What do we need to do to make a Greek statue? We need more aluminum cans. Welders. Need integrated circuits. Whistles and pi calculators versus antiseptic solution. We should have somebody looking for antiseptic solution fairly quickly here. Steering wheels. Box cutters, alright. But in that first day, you kind of know they're already tired. So anybody that was up high now needs to be moved down low. And then we're gonna have to move everybody else around. And then these guys that were up high can see if we can split things, or should we focus more there? And see if we could get that, or should we get electronic tables? This one still has energy, so we should also stick that up there too. Let's go ahead and hit forward and see if that works. We might drop the ball here, and it might take us a couple days to get upgraded. But I think we'll be fine. The game is definitely not getting any easier, and we are definitely spending a lot of time here doing this 1.2 reloaded contents that is completely different from the main game. Like, it is going to be frankly shocking just how much action for a visual novel game the main game is going to have. Again, we got the same prompt for power spots, so we can just skip through that. And I just don't think there's going to be a satisfactory different outcome. And see, what really stinks is if I run the game back in the main story and I make the different choice to have Kyoko be the blackened instead of Monokuma be the blackened when not Monokuma, when Makoto be the blackened when Monokuma tries to frame somebody. If that doesn't give me an instant game over, there is kind of this argument at that point that I should potentially just play the entirety of the game through in some kind of accelerated skip mode, and I would hope that wouldn't be the case. Well done, steering wheel. Antiseptic solution, pi calculators. What do we need for pi calculators? Small light bulbs? We need bandages too. Alright. We've got, let's see, either we're gonna have to have people rest, or we are going to have to make sure we get the warm mother's milk, which is one bandage. Meanwhile, we're still looking for Greek statues, which we can craft one of those. Do we not need a Greek statue for something else? Nope. And then wrenches and chisels. Alright, so nurse's room for bandages. Integrated circuits, 3, 4. Box cutters. 3 there. So I got the cleaning up to almost the max. The only hope is we got everything we needed to get. Alright, next. Yashihiro again. This time we'll go to the school store. And the prompts for the school store are, I remember those toy vending machines versus let's dig for treasure versus that's a pretty cute doll, or I want this awesome armor versus do they have any anime DVDs in stock versus oh it's some Monokuma merchandise, or there's all kinds of paintings here which that's only good versus here's some tarot cards, where I would have thought that would have been a good response for Yashihiro versus let's organize things here a little. Okay. I had so many of these when I was a kid. There was a set of OO parts from all around the all around the world. I didn't stop until I had them all. What about you? What sets are you into? Looks to me like you had a really good time. Man, these really do feel like these are conversations that were straight up just pitch ideas. Like the writers sat around in the writing room and pitched the beginnings of concepts and did absolutely nothing new, or any more work past that. Or possibly that some intern made a bunch of prompts and expected more people to have worked on it later, and nobody did. Okay, we need small light bulbs still. We need more welders and more steering wheels. Right. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. I need 2 more steering wheels and iron plates and small light bulbs. As far as the main thing, I need chisels, so we need to also figure that out because we have only 2 more days. Alright. So, maximum person looking for chisels. Let's put 5 people on the job. And then what else are we looking for? I feel like you kind of need 3 of those anyways. And then you get box cutters from this. We also need some whistles. It'd be crazy if it turned out certain students actually worked better in certain areas. I would be really surprised if that turned out to be the case. But I also it would make some sense that if characters like Sakura and Aoi, for instance, were better off in the gym than, say, Hifumi. Although in the photo that we saw late in the game, we actually did see that Hifumi was taking part in a race, so he wasn't even specifically that averse to physical exertion, as you would think, considering how big he is. Let's see. The idea that there's all kinds of paintings here is the right prompt seems ridiculous.
You know?
Are any of these valuable? I think I could make some good money on them.
Hey, come
oh,
on.
but it's for only the best of intentions. If I bought a painting and took it home, it'd be all sad if I was the only one looking at it, right? You know what I'm talking about, right? I think we both had a pretty good time, so. Yep. Yashahiro being greedy as a characterization, I think does not even get exposed early enough to make it seem like he would have been one of the characters who was motivated by Monokuma's offer of $10 million to kind of counter Celeste's greed, which kind of came out of nowhere. Yashahiro was almost framed for the murders in that chapter. Iron plates, 2 steering wheels. So we need iron plates, antiseptics, and pi calculators. which means we need still some small light bulbs and dust cloths. And iron plates, okay. Let's see, antiseptic solution. All of these I don't think need to be there anymore. Where do you get small light bulbs from? There. Iron plates then. Should be our focus. Meanwhile, we'll put a couple of these on the cleaning patrol. And then start cleaning. And move on. Once again, I just don't want to agonize over decisions in the gameplay mechanic here, since it doesn't really matter. We got everything done we needed to get done. The next prompts for the library are, have you ever published a book? Which is great. That seems kind of like an odd question for Yashihiro, but I guess it kind of makes sense, being the ultimate clairvoyant. Versus I just want to read comics, versus did you learn your skills from a book? Or can you tell my fortune, which is great, versus maybe we should tidy up a little, versus I wonder if Toko's books are here. Or I'm getting kind of sleepy, which is also great. So all three prompts are great, versus I love reading, versus should we spend some time studying. Of course, now we've got the happy heart trigger havoc happening. So for Yashihiro, affirmation on the first one is good, negation is poor, affirmation on the second one is great, negation is negative, is awful. Why? Huh? That voice, could it be? Are these heroes in your thoughts? I feel like Yashihiro's underwear, when we collect it, might be fairly traditional Japanese underwear too. Why is this happening to me? My life's been filled with all supernatural level stuff lately. It's not really possible, right? I'm a fortune teller, but I totally hate the occult. But anyway, I came here. It was my one chance to get closer to him. It's time for me to get my hands on my knees and beg him to help me. And I know he's got what I need. He's Makoto. I'm sure I can get the top dollar for all this stuff. So, yeah, he's trying to rip off Makoto. I think it probably highlights how Japanese people kind of don't they kind of don't take Shintoism or Buddhism very seriously, so fortune telling in their mind is kind of a completely different thing from the idea of like demons and the occult and just dark, spooky, ghost-like things. Whereas more Western Christian iconoclast and mythology would say demons are directly connected to the positives of Christianity as a counterpoint, and that they aren't completely separate ideas. Which in general means that a Japanese person probably would be like, yeah, I'm all into tarot cards and such, and that's just all positive energy. There's no downsides. It doesn't have anything to do with the occult at all. Well, and certainly there are Westerners that also are loosely into like crystals and positive thinking and the secret and things like that. So I guess Westerners aren't that different. But I definitely can confirm that hardcore fundamentalist Christians would say a fortune telling is demonic and occultish, even if it doesn't seem that way, and it's something not to be done. Yo, you worried about something? Actually, kinda, yeah. How'd you know? You just looked like you were lost in thought. Oh, gotcha. I'm glad I can depend on you, man. Okay, well, I'm kinda in the middle of a life or death situation. I mean, things are bad in here. But if I get out, things are gonna get even worse. So, I need your body. This is the same proposition he's made before. Or no, I need your power. That's fine, whatever I can do to help. Thank you, Makoto. I won't forget this. I'll explain all the details later. I might have bitten off more than I can chew. Looks to me like he had a really good time. So I guess he's potentially trying to use the ultimate lucky student to maybe get out of debts or make money. In a funny way, Yashihiro is just like the ultimate irresponsible person. That'd be about the best way to describe him. Okay, with that, we are done. We just need some aluminum cans so that we can get warm milk. And as far as crafting anything else, we really don't need to. We could certainly spend a lot of energy trying, or we can just leave everything at cleaning going forward. And I think for this last run, I would probably just want to leave everything at cleaning. The question is, in the remaining 45 days, can I level up almost every character to level 7 or 8? Like, if I could get everything up to 8 and then I could have 16 cleaning maestros at the same time, that would be nice, but that really wouldn't work. Alright, so what do we need to construct? We need 1 microchips. Can we make 5 microchips? Binary converters. Welders. Okay. So then that means just pi calculators, which means reference books, and aluminum cans. Meanwhile, everybody who's tired can pretty much just clean. Let's see, reference book is there, and aluminum can is there. I'll just leave it at that. And then we'll jump to Yashihiro in the library again. Let's see what the prompts are. Can you tell my fortune, I believe, was one of the prompts? Yes, it was.
Yo.
Geez, man, I thought you never asked. I was all sad that you and everyone else never asked me to display my skills. Obviously, being stuck in here, nobody wants to have to pay the fee.
Serious?
So I'll make you a deal. You don't have to pay right away, but the interest is 10% every 10 days. It looks to me like he had a really good time. So he doesn't even like read a fortune. You definitely could see how he as a character, if he was to actually have clairvoyancy, which I doubt he does, he could have been a helpful hint character in the main game for sure. Yeah, you could have walked to him and said, "Hey, give me a hint as to who I should date next," and then he could give either a random option later on in the game, or you should say you should go with your heart and date Sayaka, or you should spend some time with Leon in the first chapter. And then if you had different characters, I don't know how you'd fully break this down. It's like Taka, for instance. He might be able to guide you more as far as where you should look for places to clean. You could say, "I noticed the laundry room is dirty. Perhaps you should clean it up." Whereas Yashahiro could be a hint giver. Byakuya, though, like, you would have to get some fairly redundant things happening here. Byakuya could point you to certain areas where he said, I've yet to investigate this area, perhaps you should investigate it for me. Mondo, I don't know, Mondo could easily point you to hang out with more people. Leon could point you to hang out with more people, or you could be an access to the in-game music to at least turn off the background music or change it. Ifumi, like, the fact that there's just like 15 characters kind of breaks any idea as far as giving specific characters abilities that would help in the main game. But I feel like there's some characters with some abilities that would be helpful. You could certainly take 3 or 4 of them. So the prompts for the Rec Room are, I'm not sure about any of these games, versus Hope's Peak is really amazing versus kind of boring in here, or want to play Othello. I'm surprised he wants to play Othello, versus let's play pool, versus let's give darts a shot, or is that a slot machine back there, versus let's check our horoscope in the magazine, which that's poor. Versus they even have magazines on the occult, which is awful. All 3 of the prompts in the Rec Room are great again, so this is yet another good area for you to hang out with. If anything, these prompts point out that you should remember he hates the occult. He doesn't really care about horoscopes. He's much more into money and gambling.
You
know? The time has come. As man, it's time we took one big risk.
How about that?
For my fortune-telling skills by my side, I'm ready for it. But with my fortune-telling skills by my side. Looks to me like you had a really good time. Again, just no real story there. No events occur. The slot machine would make so much sense
Serious? You know?
in the main game. If I could have gambled Monokuma tokens and been guaranteed a decent return rate, like a cheater's amount of return rate, not an actual gamble payout scale, that would have been great. As it stands, I have simply just lucked out to be at nearly at 601 Monokuma tokens, which means I will be at exactly 900. Actually, I might be short. Now that I think about it, I think my math might be off. Yeah, if I get 200 Monokuma tokens in this playthrough, and then I go and do one class trial per and get 100, I would still be basically 100 short of Monokuma tokens. I would have to be able to get 200 tokens or two class trials. So yeah, that is very much the case that if I'm going to get the last achievements, I probably will just have to get them from off screen.
You know?
Which I'm getting a growing pile up of games that I theoretically want to play off screen and just never have time for it. Like I still have the Game of Life where I'm trying to get an achievement for that, and I haven't gotten back to that. Plus I have a ton of games that are still installed because I haven't scheduled them on my channel, and I desperately need to do that. Right. We need pi calculators. There we go. There we go for a cup of warm mother's milk. And so now it would either be a case of, do I want to try and get all the items necessary to get cleaning maestros, or do I just want everybody to clean? It is way easier by any means to just have them all clean. That does mean we won't get any items, certainly, but we do, I assume, get experience. And I feel like it's probably not as good of an experience as we would like, but it's probably the best we're gonna get. Like, I don't know a way to improve this game's experience payout rate. If there is a way. I don't think there is. Music room, the prompts are that piano looks pretty expensive versus I'd love to hear Sayaka sing sometime, which is great, versus nope, I misread this. It's the piano looks pretty expensive versus can you use music to tell fortunes versus want to try singing together with everyone. Or the second group is I'd love to hear Sayaka sing sometime versus I want to do some karaoke versus you could hold a huge seminar here, which that prompt I haven't seen anywhere else. So it once again seems like something specific for Yashihiro. The third group is I'm a big fan of music versus can you play any instrument versus I've always wanted to see some live music. And all three of those prompts are once again great. So we are doing kind of a really great amount of an experience here. A live performance from the super popular pop star. Now that'd be something to look forward to. We can record it and sell a limited edition. Wait, no, you didn't hear that. Looks to me like you had a pretty good time. I'm distracting myself as I'm trying to plug in my cell phone, which I'm looking at the walkthrough on. I don't want to die halfway through a 2-hour experience. Once again, we just are now skipping through basically everything.
Hell yeah.
There's a decent chance that we will have like nothing to really focus on for the next 4 days, I guess. Unless Monokuma decides to give us a cleaning maestro. Like nothing else we get even matters. So we are like in the ultimate accelerated experience that you could possibly have, and it's still fairly slow. There's still a lot of loading. There's still a lot of garbage prompts. That piano looks pretty expensive. The school is full. This is a school full of privilege, right? So everything in it's got to be pretty valuable. But to get all this stuff and keep it in working order, and then bring all of us in, what the hell have they got planned for us?
Oh, so then.
What if we get involved in some serious trouble?
I mean,
Oh wait, we're already in serious trouble. Haha, stupid me. There is something to that idea in which humans have a tendency to not realize that they're in serious trouble until it's too late. Or until they've been in trouble for a while. People want to be optimistic and have a bias towards positivity.
Isn't that wonderful?
Right, so
See ya later.
the idea here, as far as, wow, I'm surprised so many people are low on energy when they're just cleaning. The thing we'll want to do here is have everyone clean, and then you use the cleaning maestros on level 8 characters only, or at the very end of the game, whichever happens first. If I use them now, that would be a waste. I could use this, but I am also going to want to be fairly careful, because I don't want to waste a lot of time having to get resources to make more mother's milk. We may get a perfect 10 run here with Yashahiro. I'm not sure we've gotten any good prompts so far. Let's see, the garden prompts are: we can't eat these chickens versus do you like this place versus how accurate is flower fortune telling. This also kind of highlights how there's several different types of fortune telling in Japan compared to just standard palm reading and tarot card reading in the West, although I'm not sure if that's any more standard than casting bones in other parts of the world. The next group of prompts is I'd love to just lay down and go to sleep versus want to walk around a bit versus the happy blue sky kind of cheers me up. And then the third group is look at those chickens versus it's super humid in here versus want to do some gardening. Each of those prompts are once again greats. So Yashahiro is like the easiest character to get to the max level, it seems. But that doesn't really balance anything else out. It's not like there's a super hard character that only has goods. At least we haven't seen that yet. Maybe Junko is going to be that way. It would kind of suck if it turned out all the prompts for Junko are only good at best, and so you have to hang out with Junko and get the right responses like 50 out of the 50 days to get her to the max. If that did happen, that would really suck because it would take a lot more time for no good reason, but it would also allow me to earn 200 Monokuma tokens. Yashihiro says, same here, it's almost a little too warm, but that's okay.
You know?
Most people would be like, oh, naps are just a waste of time, but not you. You don't worry about stuff like that. Okay, let's hit the hay. Looks like they had a really good time. Again, I just don't think I'd ever be comfortable taking a nap with someone else in the middle of the day. Like particularly in high school. I might be more willing to do it now in my older age, but particularly in high school, I just would not be comfortable with that concept. It just seems weird. On the other hand, I imagine if I was really, really tired, I would do it and not really give it too much of a thought. But to think that it was just a casual thing that happens all the time is the weird part. And I don't know how much napping in schools really happens. Like sleeping in school in the real world does occur, I think, a lot more probably than it's even shown in anime and Japanese TV. And in Japanese schools, I feel like it almost certainly is never allowed to actually happen. Most teachers seem to be unwilling to let a student sleep in a class peacefully and would rather start conflict and start a fight instead and wake them up. Whereas there definitely were a couple teachers I know had a policy of really not waking up sleeping students because they knew they weren't really teaching anything that important in the first place, and so it makes more sense just to let sleeping dogs lay and let people catch up on their sleep than wake them up. Alright, well that's Yashihiro, so we're done with that. So we'll go to Celeste. Celeste, potentially a more interesting character, but also kind of a liar character, so she's probably not going to tell us too much of truth. That means I need to scroll down. Kyoko, Aoi, Toko, Sakura should be next. Celeste. So the prompts for the dining hall for Celeste are: for breakfast, Japanese style is best, versus you want something to drink, versus so what do you want to talk about, or all the food here is really good, versus when I'm starving it's burger time, versus do you know how to cook, versus so what do you do at night, which is only good, versus how do you get your hair to do that, versus let's pack a lunch and go somewhere. So the prompt here is all the food here is really good.
Yes, indeed.
That is actually quite true. Every meal has been fully acceptable, which makes me wonder, who is preparing these meals for us? Oh, well that's weird because I assumed that the students had been just preparing their own meals. The idea that there was potentially a prepared meal or in a refrigerator that just needed to be warmed up, or hot meals that just magically were appearing is weird, because that kind of counters the whole idea of creating despair. If anything, if you really wanted to create despair, you'd have no food, no water, or very scarce food, very scarce water, very low quality food. Those would be better motivators, at least to start with, than $10 million being offered up. $10 million to most high school students is the equivalent, is the same as saying $10,000. It's an uncomprehendable amount of money for people that don't have bills and mortgages and rent and things like that. If it is Monokuma himself, he is truly a high quality piece of machinery. But to use such technology on cooking, actually, I am fine with that. A fine meal helps expand the soul. Looks to me like she had a really good time. Yeah, that's kind of an important piece of information that they revealed just there, and it's just in the side story and doesn't really matter. Here we get a nice image of Celeste. I really haven't had the opportunity to see her entire outfit and see her little butterfly tie print and lace up sleeves. I'm still not sure if her hair is supposed to be purple or if it's supposed to be black and they just made it light black. May I be honest with you? I had a lot of fun with you today.
This is fine.
Listen, Makoto, do you think we could do this again sometime? Please feel free to talk to me whenever you feel like it.
As for me,
Is that okay with you? Once again, we're getting a lot of weird audio prompts and audio lines that don't really line up with what's being said. I don't understand. I don't usually talk this openly, do I? Anyway, shall we head back? Keep on skipping.
Isn't that wonderful? See ya.
Feel like at this point we'll do that. And when we go to construct the next Monokuma backup, at that point we'll throw some people towards aluminum cans, and that's pretty much the only resources I think I'm going to try and get. Although we just kind of don't know if we're getting real experience here or if we're getting tiny minuscule amounts of experience. It could be that it would take 50 days to go up one level, or probably closer to 15 days, where in that same 15 days I could have very possibly just been collecting items to increase a single character's level. Let's see. For breakfast, Japanese style is the best? I'm afraid not. Well, at least somebody actually disagrees with Makoto, who's been spouting that style statement. If anything, that's the only thing we know about Makoto's personality, is that he likes Japanese style. My day begins with jam or butter on a freshly baked baguette and cafe a lot, which I believe is coffee. Pickled vegetables and miso soup is the last thing I want in the morning. Although gyoza is allowed, that irresistibly crude fragrance is most refreshing. Gyoza in the morning, isn't she worried about smelling like garlic for the rest of the day? So it must be some kind of garlic fish smell food from her actual hometown. Looks to me like she had a really good time. And again, a response like that might be a interesting little tease to figuring out
as
who
for me,
Celeste really is. But then you kind of have the problem where everybody is who they say they are on face value, with the exception of Celeste and the exception of Kyoko, who just doesn't say who she is because her memory's missing. Everybody else says they are, says what they are almost immediately because of Makoto's research, which I feel like they felt like Makoto doing research on the students and the ultimates would have sped up the game, and it probably did in one way, but it also made the entire experience unnatural and closed any door to
What are you gonna do?
just normal lying. It made Kyoko stand out as someone who refused to say what her ultimate ability was, and it made you jump into long concepts, longer, more difficult concepts around hiding who you are, in the case of Mukuro Kisaba. Right, we need 10 gas burners. We might be able to do that immediately. Which then, I think that leaves us fine. So we'll just keep on cleaning. We need to see these guys level up fairly quickly, though. If I get all the way done with Celeste, and I haven't leveled up any character for cleaning once, then I should abandon that concept and just have them grinding out for cleaning maestros. The prompts for the school store or the vase looks pretty expensive versus I think there's you think there's any red bean bread here. There is a level of foods in Japan that use red beans instead of sugar. Sugar not being really that natural to Japan and harder to get and harder to just make. You can certainly probably make a bamboo sugar or get sugars from fruits, but a lot of their foods before they had started to use a lot of sugars, which arguably the West and America uses way too much sugars, and that's led to an obesity problem. But to sweeten things, they would use a red bean, and I imagine that's what they mean there. And you'd think that would be localized either with a parentheses to say sweet flavored bread. And then the third option is you want to give the toy machine a shot. Or it could be, did you see anything you want versus who would buy a set of armor, which oddly, that's kind of the opposite of the other prompts where it's always been Makoto saying, I want that set of armor, versus is that lantern for sale too? Or for a good prompt, is there anything interesting in here, which is exactly the same prompt as do you see anything you want, really, versus that's an accordion versus who do you think would buy art like that? Let's see. So the prompt here is the vase looks pretty expensive.
This is fine.
It does indeed look quite valuable. If I were to display it in my home, I can't imagine anything but roses inside. Of course, you must be very conscious of the language of flowers and what you are saying. For example, I would recommend never giving yellow roses as a gift. Too many meanings.
Let's see.
Though I don't imagine you will ever have to worry about giving someone a gift like that. Well, if you like, I would allow you to give me such a gift. This, once again, probably should be localized as to the meaning of what yellow roses implies, because I don't 100% know. Looks to me like she had a really good time. Does that imply like romantic interest or marriage or something else?
This is
Go ahead and skip the rest of the dialogue since we've already seen it. Once again, skip things.
Yes, indeed.
It doesn't seem like you increase your odds, at the very least, of getting items by only cleaning. I don't know if anything actually does increase your odds of getting items. Okay, so now we've got the trigger Happy Heart, which for Celeste, that is affirmation on the first is poor, negation on the first one is good, affirmation on the second is great, negation on the second one is awful. So affirmation on the second prompt. Celeste seems to be lost in thought, and since Celeste is the most dishonest character, I think, in the whole game, really, then being in her own thoughts should be more revealing. Huh? That voice, could it be? Are these Celeste's inner thoughts? Man, it's just slow. I guess you can hit 8. Is now a good time for it? But super slow. To just bring it up out of nowhere. Will you think I'm weird? Makoto seems like he's definitely C rank material. C rank. But after that, once I've achieved my dreams, reached my goals, hit my quota in life, could he be the type of person who could stand by my side? Could he maybe rank up even more? So she's ranking everybody. We did hear about that earlier in the game. Celeste as a character is very possibly one of the weirdest characters in the group of a lot of weird characters. I think I can stand by your side.
Let's see.
You say you think, then you say you can. So which is it? Are you confident or not? I am.
Oh,
Well, do you have any actual reason to be so confident? No, it is you. Of course you don't. A reason? I just think helping you work hard toward your dream would be a lot of fun. Is that right? Well, if you are truly committed, then I am prepared to accept that commitment. She didn't sound any different than normal, but somehow she seemed happy. Looks to me like she had a really good time. Let's see. Celeste specifically has a prompt there where she says, "May I be honest with you?" Which, when somebody is saying, "May I be honest with you," that means they're very frequently not honest with you, and they very possibly are not going to be honest with you in the next thing they say. Moving on to the library, the prompts are: the interior design here is really nice, versus there's so many books here, versus is that camera on, or I love reading, versus I'm getting kind of sleepy, versus finally we get to be alone, which that seems to be like a unique prompt for Celeste. And the third group is, do you want to read something which is only good, versus do you want to study, versus should we organize the books? So the interior design here is really nice. Indeed, I must give credit to whoever picked out the molding for this room.
let's see.
In public facilities like this, function is generally the focus, with form mostly forgotten.
Then perhaps
When I look at this school and all its rooms, I have to wonder if perhaps another ultimate student designed and decorated it. That person would have made an ideal potential servant, or perhaps they used an entire battery of pupils. I'm becoming more and more excited by this school life of ours. Looks to me like she had a really good time. There is definitely something to the question of how could you have an entire school of ultimate students? How would Danganronpa or Hope's Peak really have worked if there were so many different ultimate students? Because certainly if you had, instead of 15, which is already too many people, if you had, say, 100 to 300 students, each with their own ultimate ability that gets mentioned in the game, and each potentially a murderer, that really becomes a whole different experience and seems unlikely to be doable. Like, even with 15 characters, it still is fairly difficult to figure out who and how as far as these murders. Like, you honestly make it a different kind of game. You make something closer to, like, what Yandere Simulator promised to be, although that game really is never going to be finished and never going to be what it is, what it felt like it had promised itself to be. But yeah, the idea of potentially sneaking around schools, or a murderer sneaking around schools and killing lots of people, that would be something slightly different. It'd almost be like the equivalent of playing as a detective in the Hitman universe, or as a detective in a Metal Gear Solid universe, where,
This is fun.
or any other kind of stealth game where somebody is running around the school killing people, or multiple people are running around the school killing people. And at a certain point, it does beg the question: would you make a more interesting game if you were to make a stealth game where you played as the killer versus playing as
Isn't that wonderful?
kind of a detective to figure out who did do it? I keep checking, and I'm not gonna, like, nothing's gonna change. So I'm just wasting my time. Let's see. Did we do the library twice? Yes, we did, so I guess we go to the rec room. I'm pausing there for a second, trying to remember. It's like I've only been playing an hour, but still, the brain drain happens fairly quickly in this game. So for the rec room, the prompts are: is that a slot machine versus let's give darts a shot versus kind of boring in here, huh? Or want to play Othello versus let's play some pool versus a want to read a magazine. Or, oddly, in this case, Hope's Peak, it really is amazing, which is only good, versus I'm not sure I can play any games here, which is poor, versus look at all the Monokuma bottles, awful. It's weird to have the prompt of Hope's Peak is really amazing and have that used with all the other characters and be the wrong answer, and then this one time it's the right answer and it's not even a good answer.
As for me,
If this room did not exist, I would have died of boredom by now. Still, not one of the students here stands even the slightest chance against me.
then perhaps.
Well, if it really came down to it, perhaps Byakuya. He seems to have enough worthwhile knowledge. If he were to try very hard, perhaps he could keep up. Unfortunately, we have not stood as opponents. I think we both had a pretty good time. Yeah, again, it really makes no sense that there is a rec room if you're trying to instill despair. The only reason that the rec room would make sense is if it was a room specifically designed for each of the students. Which, let's look at that for a second and think. If I'm supposed to be the ultimate lucky student, then the rec room and the slot machine makes sense. The hot spa would make sense for Taka. Library definitely makes sense for Byakuya. The garden for Mondo maybe makes sense. Is there a place, the music room for Leon? Is there anything, the art room maybe for Hifumi? I don't know if there's really room for Yashihiro. Music room for Sayaka, or the AV room for Sayaka. Is there a room really for Kyoko? Maybe the library. The pool is clearly for Aoi. Library again could be for Toko. The dojo clearly for Sakura. Or the rec room for Celeste. There really isn't a fashionista area. There is a laundry, to say the least. And the data center maybe would have made sense if that was for Chihiro. So yeah. Perhaps it was a case that each of the characters in there setting up Hope's Peak as a place to live while the tragedy has occurred and still survive. Perhaps each of them had picked a room and built a room specifically for their own entertainment. And that would explain something. Although I'm not sure it explains everything, because I don't understand who would want the morgue or why they would have a morgue. That kind of got forgotten about and skipped over. Other than perhaps they can't even open the door to leave a corpse to rot or bury somebody in the garden. And then they didn't do anything for the classrooms really, or clean up the classroom where the murder occurred, which that also didn't get explained at all. Like, something about the tragedy must have happened where people must have killed a bunch of students in that classroom, and that just got left as a plot, a dangling plot hole. Yep. I can kind of see why Danganronpa may have caught the attention of a lot of people, certainly in the fact that it is slightly interesting and it does have a lot of red herrings and dangling plot holes that might get people a little obsessed with it, and that I could see a demand for a sequel just to finish the story. Of course, there's no guarantee that everything gets wrapped up nicely in Danganronpa 2, considering there is also a Danganronpa 3 and a side game. I did just watch another reviewer cover a horror RPG maker game called Corpse Party that had several spin-offs, and the way that reviewer put it is basically only the first game, which is still just an RPG maker game, and thus a type of game I almost never actually want to play, is the only good one in this series, and all the spin-offs are kind of blatant cash grabs. I don't know if I fully believe the reviewer who said that, but it does kind of highlight how you can have some of these niche products and it can get its niche audience riled up enough to be a raving fan base, even if the product actually is subpar. Anyway, Celeste said that was quite productive in its own way. I honestly had no reason to believe I'd gain anything by spending time with you. Please entertain me again at your earliest opportunity. I'll be waiting. That is certainly one thing that I have had to really focus on, is to not have a deep dive into fandom of games and not buy like the first game in a series that I've never played and the second game and the third game all at the same time. I now am trying to implement more of a strict rule of saying, let's play the first game and review it, and then if I find out I actually had a great time in the first game, then I probably would want to take a break in between playing the first game and the second game anyway, so I don't need to instantaneously own the sequel. And if I happen to find out that the sequel's not particularly that good, that's more's the better to not buy more of it. And it's okay, even if a game is a trilogy, to to hop off that train if you're not having fun. Like Borderlands as a series, I've covered Borderlands 1 and Borderlands 2 and Tales of Borderlands, and I probably will get around to Borderlands the pre-sequel, and I probably will get around to Borderlands 3, but I'm not specifically chomping at the bits to potentially play those long-running RPGs back to back. And there is a decent argument to not even bother to cover the pre-sequel, since it is a weird middle step game. We've already seen all of this, so we can skip this. Then it fades out, and when it fades out, it makes me think like I can't skip anymore. I need to just hold down the B button and see how the game would really play if I always had it down. 2 more days. These still are full. And everybody's energy is still at the same. So there really is nothing you have to do. The only thing we're seeing here is that we're not really getting level ups from the characters. I would like to see all the characters level up once fairly quickly. With any luck, we should be done with Celeste in about 4 trips. The next room is the music room, so the prompts here are, there's some pretty nice equipment here versus are you a good singer versus can you play any instruments, or the piano looks pretty expensive versus the stage is really nice looking versus maybe we should sing something, or want to do some karaoke which is only good versus I'd love to hear Sayaka sing sometime versus want to listen to a CD or something. Which, okay. This would be kind of a great point if we could get into the music room earlier in the game. It would have been a great point where you could have had at least one character sing a song and have it fully voiced and then play that song as the credits rolled at the end, or have it just be someone singing words over an existing background music song that already exists. That would be a good little intermission experience for a game that kind of just goes on forever.
Yes, indeed.
Karaoke. If everyone else is going to join in, then that might provide some amount of entertainment, but only if everyone else participates. That is a kind of Japanese thing too, is that they are not so embarrassed to be singled out and present themselves singing karaoke if it's the whole group being embarrassed similarly, but they definitely would not, most Japanese people would not want to go on a stage and sing a solo or be the only one singing karaoke. Are you confident in your singing voice, Makoto? I think we both had a pretty good time. I assume the Japanese are probably better at karaoke and singing than Western people in general on average. They probably don't sound any different on average, but that just being able to read the words and harmonize it, although a lot of people in the West do take part in music classes and choirs and bands, so there is a significant amount of Westerners who are musically inclined too. That was quite productive in its own way. We've already heard this. I don't know if there really are electives per se in Japanese high school or college. College probably does have some electives, but I wouldn't be surprised if everybody in Japanese high school has to do some kind of music class, and they can't. There's no way of getting out of it, and they all probably have to do some form of general physical education, if I was to guess, even if they are in a more specific sport. I would almost assume that it is a case where there are core classes and then there are extra classes after school, and you're expected to do some kind of extra class after school, and that would be the closest thing to an elective. But they don't stand in for other electives, where in the West there's just a number of electives you have to pass in high school, and they can be anything, so you can kind of specialize one way or the other. If you like music, you can take lots of music classes. If you hate music, you can kind of avoid music classes. Okay, speaking music. Did we do the music room twice? Did we do it only once? I think we only did it once, so we'll come back and do it again. The prompt here is there's some pretty nice equipment here.
Let's see.
Naturally, the school is the home to the nation's most ultimate students, yes? Top class students deserve only top class facilities. See, and I kind of disagree with that, and I haven't brought that thought back up in probably 100 hours, but ideally you would kind of want all schools to be equally funded and equally equipped, and you would want to give a equitable opportunity to every single student, instead of rich schools having better equipment and thus better and often better teachers, and thus parents of rich kids go to rich schools and have better education, and thus they end up being better qualified or more desirable hires or getting better jobs, and it kind of feeds into a bad system where you cannot pull yourself up by your bootstraps, which is the ironic sentence that gets spoken a lot in the West, and it literally is impossible and it means nothing. But yeah, you can't empower yourself if you're getting less opportunities than other people, fairly. In a way, this entire school is a stage designed to show the world a lot of talent. Looks to me like she had a really good time. What you can definitely tell is that there's no like special education in Hope's Peak.
As for me,
So anyone with any kind of disabilities or mental need for assistance in special education, like they just would not be probably ever allowed to Hope's Peak, and that, from what I hear, is probably accurate for most Japanese schools. There is also no physical assistance in this school, and it's fairly obvious that there's just stairs but no elevators, there's no ramps. We didn't see any kind of even special toilets for disabled people in the bathrooms. So you could be like the ultimate programmer or hacker like Chihiro and be in a wheelchair and still not probably be invited to Hope's Peak. You almost need a different school that's the school rival to Hope's Peak in the sequel to kind of counter some things, although that would just be kind of interesting regardless. So we need 10 of these, which we don't have, and 20 paints. Oh, which we don't have, so we need then tree branches and music scores and integrated circuits. Meanwhile, we'll do this, and we're gonna have to start sending some people in different directions. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and we'll leave that one cleaning since that one's lower at that. 4. Meanwhile, maybe we'll throw one character that way. Throw a couple of characters that way. Okay. And of course, nobody leveled up. We'll do 2 trips to the garden, and then we should be done with Celeste, or at least very close. The prompts for the garden for Celeste are want to walk around a bit versus the happy blue sky kind of cheers me up versus I'd love to just lay down and go to sleep, or something seems off versus do you like flowers and stuff versus do you think flower fortune telling works, or want to do some gardening, which is only good, versus this it's super humid in here versus the flowers, that flower's kind of creepy. Affirmation in the second one for the trigger happy heart, now for a 3rd time. Yep, there was 2 characters that we've run into where we've gotten a lot of these trigger happy heart events. And this is still very slow.
I got it.
We'll go ahead and skip all this because it's all stuff we've seen again.
This is fine.
Yeah, and at this rate, we are maybe just barely going to be able to get through one whole run of the game, but very possibly no, even at that.
Yes, indeed. Now,
Yeah, you know, I've never thought about doing running like a localization company or running a video game company more than in the abstract in general, but for visual novels in particular, there might be an idea here as far as trying to water down and make a Cliff Notes version of visual novels and re-releasing them and localizing them. That won't get the hardcore fans certainly happy, but there might be a way to have an abridged version of the game as the default way to play, and then the completely literally translated version also done. That would be 2 translations and probably be a little bit more expensive, but I think on top of just changing the text and abridging things, if you took the general concepts and completely remade the game, that might also interest people. That being said, trying to run a business like that is very similar to what they did with like Robotech and cartoons in anime many decades ago, and they really stopped doing that because it clearly wasn't worth the money and effort. So it's probably a dumb idea. And the licensing issues and getting contracts signed with Japanese companies and doing business with Japanese companies is going to be really a hassle. So we have a walk, you say?
This is fine.
It might be nice to take some time out and go for a leisurely stroll. Many exotic plants are in full bloom, and the smell here is not entirely unpleasant. I would venture to say this is the kind of place that's good both for the body and soul. Looks to me like she had a really good time.
This is fine.
There probably are a decent number of Western games that either you would try to mod to speed up and have an abridged version of it, or you would try to work with them, work with the original creators to change. Like JRPGs are kind of a great example of that, where if there was just a cheat mod that came by default and tripled, quadrupled the amount of XP you got in a lot of JRPGs, that probably would be really appreciated. Okay. Well, then we go to the last guy, Chihiro, and we'll start dating her. I'm gonna get this wrong a lot, I bet. So, as far as Chihiro, then I have to scroll back up for the prompts. Again. We have only 2 more characters, Chihiro and Junko, and we should be able to get both in this run. And at that point, I don't think there's any reason to ever play this content again. I don't know if honestly, there was really not a reason to ever play this content in the first place. So the prompts for Chihiro in the dining hall are let's pack a lunch and go somewhere versus do you make your food yourself versus so what do you do at night? Or the next one is only good and it's do you like Japanese or Western food versus want something to drink versus when I'm starving it's burger time. Or should we clean up a little versus is that clock stopped versus what should we talk about, which is also only good. So the dining hall is actually pretty bad for Chihiro. Let's pack a lunch and go somewhere is the great response. Oh, that sounds amazing. The voice acting for Chihiro is bad, but I don't know what you give. I don't know how you get a voice actor to say, alright, this is really a guy, but he's going to be putting on a girl's affectation, but we don't want it to be so obvious. But it would be really weird if it was just super sweet and super feminine. Maybe that would be the best way, is just to hire a voice actress and say, just use your regular voice. This is a girl. And then don't even tell the voice actor that the character is a guy until later. But maybe you also go for a prompt where you say it's a very young boy, young girl style voice without a lot of definition. Seems like picnic food always tastes way better than regular food. You need to make a bunch of different stuff to make everyone happy. Sandwiches, rice balls, all that. The lunchbox will become like a little treasure box overflowing with goodies. Okay, then where should we go? I think the garden would be pretty nice. I wonder if what they mean when the prompt is let's pack a lunch and go somewhere. I wonder if that's probably localized for let's pack a bento box and go somewhere, where bento boxes are kind of like packed lunches that Japanese people would have instead of eating in like a cafeteria for lunch at school. Or if they literally mean a picnic. I don't think I've ever seen a Japanese person go on a picnic. I think they probably would be fairly offended if you walked on the grass in most places where I don't know if they really have gardens where you're allowed to just wander on the grass in general. And if you don't have parks or gardens like that, then there really aren't a lot of places where you could have a picnic. Yeah, I just don't think culturally picnics as an idea are done that much. At least I've never seen them shown in any Japanese media. Looks to me like she had a really good time. Huh? Wow, is it that late already? Makoto, I don't know what to say.
Thank you.
Thank you for spending so much time with me.
You know?
I want you to come see me again. I want to spend as much time with you as possible. Now, when you see Chihiro blushing like this, I don't know what story they're really trying to imply here. Was Chihiro just a cross-dresser because he didn't feel like he was manly enough or strong enough to be a boy, and thus he forced himself into the personality of a girl? Or is he straight up just a cross-dresser who's into guys? With the blushing, it kind of feels like she is, or he is into guys. And we just don't really get any of the backstory of Chihiro to really know his true feelings there, or even his preferred pronouns, because this game was written at a time where this would have not been handled particularly delicately or maturely, and it really is just used as a twist. It's not even used as like a gag or like a mean-spirited joke. If there was something like that, it was either censored out or removed. You would think that Mondo would be the most like homophobic character, if any of the characters had to be homophobic, and I guess that was why Mondo killed Chihiro in a fit of rage, but even that doesn't really get touched upon well enough. Sorry, anyway, we should get going. Was the last line of dialogue there? Let's keep our momentum and not lose it.
Hell yeah.
If anything, I would say Mondo's murder does seem like it was a crime of passion, which does kind of then introduce this idea that crimes of passion are not to be treated any differently, even though that was tried to be used as an excuse by Leon in the first chapter. The second chapter is a crime of passion, and still that made no difference. Why was I making binary converters? Darn it, I may have wasted something there. Okay. We can craft that. We've got energy. Everybody's fairly hyped. So I guess that means we can just put everybody back to cleaning duty at this point. There's not a single person that I can use a cheat sheet on, which probably this does emphasize that you shouldn't have tried to build as many cheat sheets as I did. Although at the end of the day it doesn't really matter, because that still accomplished the goal of ensuring that I have the right amount of resources in every run and don't have to worry about that. So yeah, everybody goes back to cleaning. And then we can once again try to see how that goes. Let's see. And yeah, unless I drop the ball terribly with Chihiro or Junko, I think we're pretty much guaranteed to get those two done. Also, let's see. Same prompt. If anything, I guess Chihiro wanted to be perceived maybe as the little sister character, which Makoto does have a sister, and so maybe that was kind of the trope, and the idea is that for going with the anime cliched characters, and they still needed Chihiro to be a high school student, so they're not gonna draw her super young.
See ya.
But yeah, sweet and innocent is generally the idea of what they were, I think, going for. Still not a single level up. It kind of does smack in the face though. Like, here's just a scenario that should have probably happened in the main story. Is somebody needed to have threatened or bullied Chihiro in the school. Byakuya probably would have been a good pick there, or it could have been Toko too, and then that should have caused Chihiro to burst in tears and run out of the room, and that should have stirred this idea of Makoto wanting to protect Chihiro and feeling sorry for her, and then you would have just had a little bit more of a relationship with Chihiro before she finally died, instead of alter ego being the character that you're much more in a relationship with by the end of the game. And one assumes that alter ego is gone at the end of the game, but maybe not. The school store prompts here there's some pretty neat stuff here, huh? Versus who would want to buy this armor, versus so who comes and puts more toys in here, which that's an interesting question. Or it could be you want to give the toy machine a shot, versus is that a folding fan, versus an earthquake would destroy that vase, which both of those prompts seem to be new and kind of pointless. Or it could be, do you see anything you want, which is only good, versus that clock looks pretty old, versus what's up with that vase or vase. And see, which vase and vase are they even talking about? There's a couple on the screen. And the toy machine is the right prompt here.
Yay!
Ah, I can't wait to see what I get. It's kind of like a treasure hunt. My heart's starting to beat faster. I didn't get much allowance when I was a kid, so I could only afford one spin a week. But now I can do it all I want. Yeah, that makes me feel kind of grown up. Looks to me like she had a really good time. Oh wow, it's late already. Makoto, I don't know what to say. Thank you for spending so much time with me. I want you to come and see me again. I want you to spend as much time as possible. We've already seen this prompt. It's so weird though. Like, because you just couldn't play this section of the game until you'd beaten the main game, I don't think. Yeah, it literally did not unlock until you'd beaten the main game and seen the credits. When there's totally stuff here that would have worked better if we'd seen it earlier. I guess we just kind of need to keep an eye on energy and keep on cleaning. We got Chihiro to level up, which means possibly all the other characters will level up in the next couple of rounds. It doesn't seem like it's particularly consistent even at that point. You could see how you could easily just program it so that they got 1 experience every time they cleaned, and then they needed, say, 10 experience to get from level 1 to 10, and then maybe 20 to get from level 2 to 3, and they just kept doubling at that point.
Yay!
That was the exact same prompt, so we can skip that. We still are very often running into a scenario where we get the same prompts over and over again, where it would have been way smarter to just cycle through the 3 of them. Particularly if you started with a great response, and then the second one was a great response, and then the third one, the best option is a good response. We're getting somewhere close to where we need to be. Could give some people some energy for what little it's worth, but we might as well waste our items that we have. Let's see, Junko just leveled up. Keep on moving, keep on moving. We're gonna be in a weird position here. We've got about 13 more minutes of how long I would like this to go. And we very possibly aren't going to be done with this run in 13 minutes. And I kind of wanted to be completely done with this run so that we could have a nice fresh episode next time, which very possibly could be the last episode, but very possibly could be just another episode. The prompts in the library are: I love reading versus should we spend some time studying versus I'm getting kind of sleepy, or do you come to the library a lot versus I just want to read comic books versus finally we get to be alone, which apparently that is another awful prompt to hit on characters. I kind of want to see what Chihiro would say in that case. Versus the third group is It's So Quiet Here, which is great, versus seems like there's more books than before, versus I feel like a ghost might pop out, and that's an odd group of prompts too. Let's see, so I love reading.
You're right.
Yeah, it's so much fun to learn about new things, even if it's a book you've already read. Each time you read it again, you pick up on the little details you didn't notice before. Even the picture books you read as a kid, if you look at them now, you'll have a totally new experience. Is that part of what it means to grow up? Yeah, Chihiro being like the ultimate programmer, ultimate hacker character would have had to read a decent amount of books, although her backstory kind of makes it seem more like she just has this natural magical talent for programming and didn't really have to learn any programming languages or learn from others at all, which that's how they often portray the ultimate hackers in stories, but it's kind of pointless and ridiculous. and untrue. It would make a lot more sense to have natural inbuilt talent playing baseball than programming, because in the case of programming, you're having to interface with a programming language that some other human programmed, and thus even the person who programmed the programming language is flawed. Whereas the natural physics of swinging a bat and a ball are kind of not something that changes ever for any characters. Gravity is the same everywhere. It's a constant. Physics are a constant. Yeah. The two that leveled up, though, went from level 5 to level 6, so unless other characters start leveling up from 6 to 7, we may very well not have not be making any more progress or making any significant amount of progress. Yeah, we can see nobody's leveled up yet. Which the fact that the 5s going to 6 did level up, and if we don't see 6 going to 7 in the next couple days, then we know it takes more experience at the very least, which that seems fairly obvious, but we would also know that there's perhaps less reason to even try to grind normally, and that I should just jump to making cleaning maestros. Right, so we're gonna get her caught in thought, which her inner thoughts or his inner thoughts would be interesting to say the least. The options are, for number 1, affirmation is awful, negation is great. For prompt number 2, affirmation is poor, and negation is good. So we want negation on the first prompt. Chihiro seems to be lost in thought, but what should I do? That voice, could it be? Is this Chihiro's inner thoughts? What's funny here too is, wouldn't the inner thoughts of Chihiro, with him being a guy, actually not be the fake female voice? Or does Chihiro really hear himself as the fake female voice that he puts on? Okay. We're going with negation on the first prompt after we go around once. What should I do? Super slow. I just don't know. Man, I gotta speed this up. I don't want to change, I know that, but I'm just so scared. Yeah, sometimes it's fast if you have a lot of words. I believe in Makoto, but will he really accept me? Most likely. Everyone's gonna hate me. They're gonna think I'm awful. I don't want that. I don't want them to hate me. But it's best if I don't. Maybe it's best if I don't say anything. Maybe I'll wait for a better chance. So yeah, Chihiro is thinking about coming out to them and telling them, yeah, actually I'm a boy or biological male. It just feels more comfortable dressing as a girl or pretending to be a girl. Why would you ever think that? Nobody's gonna think you're awful. Really? The idea that we would hate you or look down on you for something you're obviously so upset about, there's no way. And if there's something causing you this much worry, then that's what we should hate. Don't you think? Makoto. I'm not trying to force you or anything, but if you think talking to me will help you feel better, please don't hesitate.
Thank you.
Thank you, Makoto. I think just hearing you say that is good enough for now. You've given me a lot of courage, honest. So if something happens and I lose that courage, is it okay if I can come talk to you again? Of course, anytime you want. Looks like she had a really good time. Alright, we can go ahead and skip all that. Day 27 of 50. We may have a slight struggle to build the next character, but we're fine now. And see, they mentioned Moe, and that would be the style that you would probably have tried to draw Chihiro more in, although perhaps when this game was originally created, Chihiro is what Moe would be at that point. Moe being like kind of young and cutish, and eventually kind of evolved into anthropomorphically anatomically incorrect. Not anthropomorphically, anatomically incorrect, to the point where the characters are just super not human, super short, look fairly young at best comparison. It does bring about an interesting idea if there was an animation style where you drew everybody with a third arm or a unicorn horn. How would people translate that, really? And I guess mostly the furry art forms kind of do some of that, where there are animals drawn and they look like humans and we interpret them to be humans. Monokuma adult,
I feel as if
which perhaps the Monokuma adult backup is supposed to be a counter to the Moe Monokuma. As far as how many of these we have and how many of these we built, we built them all a long time ago. Alright, we need 5 Greek statues. Let's see if we can do 5. Nope, we need aluminum cans. We need 20 stainless steel sheetings, which I don't know if we can pull this off. We need 10 power saws, which means more tree branches. I also need a syringe. Definitely does seem like we are a little short on everything. Okay. Aluminum cans, tree branches, cardboard. Let's go. Aluminum cans give energy, or can we get aluminum cans anywhere else? Tree branches also. Cardboard. Tree branches. What do we want to do otherwise? Put all these guys this way. Cardboard. And then that. And that. And let's give that a try. Of course, nobody's going to level up if they're searching for things. Wouldn't be surprised if Chihiro is not particularly the most interesting character to take to the rec room. Let's see. For the Rec Room prompts, we have there's some computer magazines here versus do you believe in horoscopes and stuff versus is that a slot machine in the back? Or want to play Othello versus let's play some pool versus let's give darts a shot. Or Hope's Peak really is amazing, which that is a great response, versus kind of boring in here, versus I'm not sure I can play any games in here. So the Rec Room is actually particularly good for Chihiro. Okay. So computer magazines here.
Yay!
Wow, you're right. Is it okay if I glance through them? I already read through all the ones in the library, but I had no idea there were more here. And thanks for noticing them, Makoto. Looks to me like she had a really good time. I guess when I'm reading things here, I don't need to correct anything. If it says she, in general, and see, this is just something I'm thinking about as I'm playing. Yeah, if Makoto, whether intentionally or unintentionally, if the main character in any game intentionally or unintentionally mischaracterizes or misgenders a character, that's not really my problem. Like, I'm just quoting and reading out loud, if I am reading out loud, what the character is saying. In the same way that if this was a fully voiced game and Makoto said something offensive to any character, I'm not endorsing that. I'm not creating that speech by any means. I might be repeating the speech in my form of playing the game and criticizing it, but yeah. So yeah, it doesn't fall on me, or at least I feel like I shouldn't particularly feel bad or feel a need to change or censor somebody else's speech or some other artist's creation. If I was writing a book report for, say, Huck Finn, me quoting what is said in the book is fine and accurate. I shouldn't have to censor the actual words in Huck Finn, even if they are offensive by today's standards, or even offensive by the day's standards in which the book was written. I'm just quoting, I'm just reporting, so don't shoot the messenger, I suppose. I guess that is kind of a great example, because if you were in high school writing a book report on Huck Finn, quoting one specific offensive word may actually get you in trouble or cause controversy when it probably shouldn't. But yeah, I guess the whole world is full of people just itching to be offended anyways, and there's really nothing you can do about that. So we are now lost in thought again, so we'll speed this up and do this fairly quickly. And then we'll skip the rest of this. There's way too much flash and visual polish in a lot of these sequences in the main game. Like, clearly the creator of the game, or the person in charge, felt like this game needed more action and needed to try and trick people into thinking that there was more action. The whole background music playing in the top right is kind of an example of that, and the sun swinging back and forth in the top left is proof of that. But I would gladly trade all the flash and all the visuals away for a slightly better written game and a more fleshed out story, because I kind of do like these characters. So it's just like a shame that I'm not able to have more of an experience with these characters, or a more fleshed out experience. The prompts for the music room are I'd love to hear Sayaka sing sometime, versus I want to do some karaoke, versus I'd like to try singing on stage sometime, or the piano looks pretty expensive and that's only a good response, versus want to try singing together with everyone, versus have you ever written any music, which I don't know why Chihiro would have written music, or what kind of music do you like, which is also only good, versus can you play an instrument, versus I've always wanted to see some live music. So oddly, the piano looks expensive. Seems to be the right response. Seems to be the right response far too often. Yeah, it fits right here at Hope's Peak. They must have spent a ton of money on all this equipment. Even their computers and stuff. There's just way more stuff than one person could ever use by themselves. Yeah, I can't wait to check that stuff out. I think we both had a pretty good time. And see, if that was supposed to be the one hint that she was the ultimate hacker, programmer, that would have been interesting. But that only makes sense if the characters aren't upfront with their abilities, or Makoto hadn't done research on all of the students and their abilities. It does feel like it would have been a much more interesting murder game if Monokuma had just straight up told them to not reveal who they are and what they can do at the beginning of the story, and you had to figure that out later on.
See ya later.
And I think because our focus is pretty much on dating people, that we will probably end up having to just end this recording after we're done with Chihiro's stories. Let's see. Need more cardboard. I need more power saws, probably too. More tree branches. Cardboard and tree branches. I have not been getting any materials really for that. Let's see, how tired are people? I don't think enough. But fully makes sense. Tree branches, tree branches, tree branches. Versus milk and all that. I guess we'll probably better off just sending these guys to clean. Cardboard. Cardboard. Clean. 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 Cardboard. How many gyms do we need to send them down to? Okay, that seems fairly balanced. Let's do it. Did we hang out with Chihiro twice in the music room? I don't think we did. So let's go ahead and do the music room one more time. And then do the garden twice. This is like the third time we've done the Happy Heart Havoc. See, slowing down things and speeding things up at the same time doesn't speed things up. Kind of feels like there should be a way to speed this up even more. Really, it just needs a whole skip section. Or you know what you could do very easily here is they could have told you to save all your Monokuma tokens, and then they should have said, okay, now you can just spin the Monokuma tokens to automatically gain hearts of affection with the characters. And you don't have to actually bother to play the game, because the game is paper thin anyways. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Oops. Overshot it by 1. There's our Monokuma. And might as well get one more mom's warm milk. Still would need iron plates and antiseptic solution if I was going to try and craft a cleaning maestro, which I'm not sure it's really worth it. But what I can do is I can put the level 9 character searching for that, because I guess at the end of the day he did his searches don't really affect anything else. So I've been having Yashahiro clean for no reason. And that's kind of a great example how Yashahiro alone won't get the antiseptic solution, I don't think, ever. We can kind of experiment here and try and figure out if that's the case or not. And we do seem like we'll have plenty of time to deal with Junko. So the prompts with the garden, or look at those chickens, versus want to do some gardening, versus it's super humid in here, or want to walk around a bit, versus I'd love to just lay down and go to sleep, versus the happy blue sky kind of cheers me up, or this doesn't really feel like a classroom, versus the flower is huge, versus we can't eat those chickens, and that's only a good response. Wanna walk around a bit is the right response.
Yay.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. I know we're still inside, but walking around in here, it feels totally different than the rest of the school. Looks like she had a really good time. In the localization, the she's and he's could have easily been removed too. It could have always just been Chihiro had a really good time, and you could certainly just make that the standard way in which Makoto speaks anyways. That probably is more accurate to the Japanese language anyways. I don't think you have a well, when you say I and you're trying to do a masculine I in Japanese, I believe that's boko wa or boku wa. Yeah, I think it's boku wa. Where if you're saying I and you're using effeminate language, it would be watashi, I believe. It's been a long time. So there's a pretty big difference there. But I don't think they use either of those really very often in casual conversation. It would be more like Chihiro-san or Chihiro-kun or Chihiro-chan. Whatever honorific you would put on it. Had a great time. Or and if anything, I think languages probably will evolve away from gendered variants, and it will just be you pretty much have no reason to refer to someone's gender, or don't bother to refer to someone's gender a lot. They're certainly in the Western United States culture, and probably in Eastern culture a lot. There's a lot that's hung on very young children about how you're a little girl, you're a little boy, and thus that means you're completely different, for when biologically they're different. Physically they're different, but a 2-year-old toddler that's a boy versus a 2-year-old toddler that's a girl really isn't that different mentally or physically, and the segregation there is more societal than scientific. Oh, we already seen this prompt, so we'll skip this. A great example of that is how it was fairly common when I was a kid for teachers and adults to say don't hit girls, and it took a whole nother generation for people to realize, oh, actually we mean you shouldn't be hitting anyone. And that it's kind of ridiculous it took that long to get there, but eventually people wised up there. Alright, well, we are good. We have 3 days left. We don't have to change anything. We did have 2 level up on cleaning, that's good. Again, we can see Yashihiro is not getting any antiseptic. He did get slightly more drops this time, but not by much. This will be the last time we hang out with Chihiro, unless we find out we've not gotten to 10 hearts, which is possible. It definitely feels like I should have not gotten the 10 hearts for some of these characters. Otherwise, I've managed for 15 dates in a row to get a great prompt and a great response. Either that or the heart meter works slightly different than what I think, or these happy heart triggers give more of a payout than just one full heart. Of course, even in the happy heart triggers, we know that you would get 3 other different lines of dialogue if you simply chose the wrong answers. So you are at best only really seeing maybe close to a quarter of the content actually in the game. Okay. Can't check and not go on a date, so I'm gonna have to make an executive decision here to kind of go on a date with Junko, I think. Otherwise we leave the game paused where it is, which maybe that works too. Alright, several more people have leveled up. And we have antiseptic solution, I think, so we might actually be able to craft some things. Alright, Monokuma, tell me if we have dated Chihiro enough. Yes, we have. Okay. So, yeah. In the next recording, we'll finish up with Junko and finish up this run, and then we'll see what else content we can get through. It's gonna be weird to say the least.
Well,
Can I save the game at this point? Yes, I guess I can. Like presence-wise, we still have, like, we're gonna get 4 pieces of underwear. So 1 is here, and then 3 are here, which that seems weird. So I guess this is Yashihiro's underwear, and then Junko's, Celeste's, and then Junko's, and then Chihiro's. That would be my guess. And maybe we'll get something interesting or weird about Chihiro's underwear. I don't know. But at that point, we kind of don't have any extra use for the Easter eggs or any of these other items. It still doesn't really make a lot of sense why we ended up with 4 copies of a young man's fantasy or a man's fantasy. It does make sense that we have so many copies of so many other things because we got those using the gambling machine, which honestly, if I hadn't gambled away some of the Monokuma tokens, I would have actually gotten to 999 at this point. We'll go ahead and save. Let's see. I'm a little pumped, but it's hard to particularly point it out. But I am a little bit enthused to be done with this game. It's been very long running. More and more I end up playing longer and longer games and regretting it. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.